Good morning, Freescale Technology Forum. How's everyone? I can't hear you. Much better. Today I'll begin my talk with a personal story, because my personal story, my personal trajectory motivates the work that I do at MIT even today. In 1982, I was in a mountain climbing accident. My partner and I were out for nearly 4 days. And to make a long story short, after being rescued from the mountain, I suffered severe frostbite to my legs. And after months of effort, my medical team gave up and they were forced to amputate my biological legs below my knees. So I stand before you today, supported by artificial structures, an actuator, sensing, computation, an embedded system that I rely on in my day-to-day life. After my legs were amputated, I dreamed of mountain climbing again, but how might this be possible? The answer, of course, was technology. I developed climbing devices that enable me to return to my chosen sport of rock and ice climbing. So here I'm over 100 feet off the ground, clinging for dear life, using these artificial limbs. Some of the limbs I developed enable me to stand on small rock edges the width of a coin. Others allow me to penetrate the ice surface. Now, I'm a lucky person because both of my legs are amputated. That's fantastic. And the reason is I can adjust my height. I can be as short as 5 feet or as tall as I like. And this is a great advantage when I date. If the woman is very tall, I just crank up my height. So I'm very tall, if she's short, I crank it down. So many advantages. So from this experience of having my legs amputated and building my artificial limbs, I realized that technology has an extraordinary capacity to heal, to rehabilitate. After my accident, I climbed at a more advanced level with artificial limbs than I've ever achieved before my accident with normal biological limbs. To achieve this level of success required that I view my body in a different way. I stopped viewing the artificial part of my body as broken, as disabled. Instead, I viewed the artificial part of my body as a blank palette for which to create an opportunity. So I realized that there's no such thing as human limitation. There's no such thing as human disability. Disability can be overcome through technological innovation. There's only poor design, there's not human disability. As a young man, I imagined a future where technology becomes so advanced that we can largely rid the world of physical and emotional cognitive disability. And it did not take very long for the world to get a glimpse of such a future. This is Oscar Pistorius. He was born in South Africa without fibular bones in his lower leg. And his parents had to make it very difficult to allow doctors to amputate their 11-month-old boy's legs. Today, Oscar is 24 years old. And as you can see, he's using prostheses to stand, walk, and run. It turns out Oscar is really, really fast. His athletic specialty is the 400-meter sprint race. So here you see him whipping around the track. And he's about to pass the person who believed he would win the race. Now what's unusual about this race is Oscar's competing against persons with normal biological limbs. And as you can see, he's winning the race. This got the attention of the IAAF, the governing body of sports events such as the Olympics. And Oscar, they ended up banning Oscar. They said, Oscar, even if you qualify for the Beijing Olympics, you're not allowed to compete. Because the prostheses are actually offering an advantage to you as an athlete. Nationally, it's got the attention of the legal and scientific communities of the world. It was appealed to a higher court. I was an expert witness, and we got it overturned. Now, Oscar, if he qualifies for the London Olympics, he's allowed to compete in the Olympics. Fantastic. Now, sadly, so many people in the world, Sadly, so many people in the world that do not have normal minds and bodies are not well served by technology. This is a US soldier that was hit by a blast near Baghdad. As you can see, he's missing 3 limbs, an arm and 2 legs. This is what current technology can provide. To myself and my colleagues, and I'm sure many of you, this is just unacceptable. As a society, we need to do a better job. It's not well appreciated, but a lot of people in the world, over half the world's population, suffers from some form of cognitive, emotional, or physical condition. And because of poor technology, many people that have these conditions are severely disabled. I predict through fundamental advances in fields such as regenerative medicine and bionics, in the twilight years of this century, we will eliminate disability in the world. What do I mean by that? I see many people in the audience wearing eyeglasses. It used to be that society, before the prosthesis called an eyeglass existed, society labeled you as disabled. But now, because of the eyeglass, the prosthesis, you're no longer viewed in that way by society. In fact, your eyeglass, your prosthesis, is viewed as a fashion accessory. The same can be true for me. Because of my artificial limbs, I'm able to do what I want in life because of great technology. I climb mountains, I jog for recreation, I play tennis. If you were to take the technology away from my body, I am severely disabled. All I'm able to do is crawl. With the technology, I am free. So the story of how technology will transform our bodies and minds will be an important narrative of this 21st century. And a key area is bionics. Bionics leads to advanced electromechanical devices that surround the human or attach to the human, or even implanted inside the human to expand our capabilities. Bionics is typically done through an interplay between science and design. In the field of bionics, the investigators try to more deeply understand how humans work, how do we think, how our brains work, how our bodies work. And then through those scientific principles, we then motivate designs in the bionic space, synthetic structures that emulate the mind and the body. So I would call myself an extreme user of technology because I'm so reliant on my artificial limbs. I'm so reliant on my embedded systems. So I'm an extreme user because of that reliance. The story that I present today, that this half the world's population that has these conditions, they're extreme users. They're willing to take the medical risks to make tomorrow's technologies, future technologies, safe for all of humankind. So the story of eliminating disability in this century, the story of advancements in technologies in bionics, regenerative medicine, and genetics will ultimately affect all technologies for all people. So I'll begin and I'll give several examples of research that's underway by my team at MIT as well as colleagues of mine throughout the world. The first topic I'll address is rewiring the brain. Now the brain is an extraordinary frontier for bio-investigators. The brain does not look that unusual from the outside, just a few pounds of pink wrinkled flesh. But as we venture inside to the brain, we see an extraordinarily complex organ. The most complex computational organ in the universe, perhaps. There's hundreds of billions of cells, of connections. And more than that, there's 1,000 to tens of thousands of different types of cells. So brain disorders, conditions have been treated largely from a pharmacological approach using drugs. But it's very problematic because you dope the entire brain, this very complex circuit, with a chemical, with unfavorable side effects. So what the bionic field is thinking about today is, can we in fact build small electronic packages that very focally, precisely stimulate regions of the brain, even specific brain cell types? to affect brain conditions, even mood. So there's been a pilot study to address how deep brain stimulation can perhaps affect a person's mood. So this pilot study used transcranial magnetic stimulation. And they took a small group of individuals who were severely depressed, and individuals where many of them were suicidal, did not respond to antidepressants, did not respond to counseling. Here's a scan of one of the individuals' brain, and you can see this area, CG25 in red, has a heightened neural activity, and the areas in blue have a depressed neural activity. The hypothesis of the study was that by electrically stimulating the region CG25, heightened neural activity, with a stimulus of 130 hertz, perhaps the brain neural activity could be brought down to more normal levels. Perhaps that would affect mood. And that's what happened. Upon stimulation, the study participants suddenly felt happy. From a suicidal state, suddenly felt happy. Reported sudden calmness and lightness, a higher connectivity, felt connected to other human beings. When this individual's brain was scanned again, sure enough, the area CG25 was brought down in neural activity. And even though they didn't activate other areas of the brain, those other areas of the brain that were pathologically low came up in neural activity. Extraordinary. Imagine a future in which we don't dope the entire brain with a chemical of nasty side effects. A future in which we focally, precisely affect cells in the brain to treat a condition such as depression. So how can we do that? Perhaps by installing solar panels. Perhaps by applying light interventions to turn on and off neurons. This is the work of Edward Boyden at MIT. So what has Professor Boyden done? Here's a fungi organism, and it has a light-sensitive protein that allows it to swim in the direction of light to enhance its photosynthetic effect. So if we look in close, there's these porous materials with the light-sensitive protein. When blue light is shown on this porous interface, there's positively charged ions that pass through the interface, changing the voltage differential and allowing this organism to swim towards the direction of the light to enhance the photosynthetic effect. So here you see the valves opening and closing through the intervention of the blue light. So what Professor Boyden did was take a DNA strand from this organism and implanted that strand into the cell type of interest within a brain. So here's the DNA strand that's implanted into a particular cell type. And then what's expressed is this light-sensitive protein. And these are in effect, the solar panels that go across the surface of the cell of interest. So here you see them puncturing out. Now when blue light is shown on the cell across the brain, that particular cell type is turned on. So there's the blue light and the cell is turned on. So with this strategy, we can target a specific cell. For example, we can target basket cells in the brain which are atrophied in conditions such as schizophrenia, and with light only affect that cell type without any nasty side effects. So Professor Boyden's developing these tools, these probes that will insert light into the brain. So another example, we've done depression where this type of technology can be employed, is the vision system. So a person with a vision impairment often has issues with photoreceptor cells. They're not able to take light and convert it to electrical information. So what about putting these solar panels, these light-sensitive proteins, on the bipolar cells? Now when light is shown on, there's a conversion to electrical information inside the brain. So here's a mouse that's blind. And the mouse receives an award when it gets into the channels here. So the mouse, since it's blind, can only do this by feeling the walls and doing a brute force search. Now, after the mouse receives the intervention, it now can see, and it goes directly to the channels. Imagine the future that we will see. Moving on to another area, mind over matter. Can we use bionic electronic packages inside the brain to extract information from the brain as a sensor? Yes, there's a group at Brown University headed by John Donahue, and they're doing just that. Using an array that's a small fraction of a thumbnail, they implant this array into the brain. In their clinical studies, they've implanted it into the part of the brain that's mapped to the artery end. Again, it's a very, very small implant. Their first human participant is Matthew, shown here. Matthew grew up in Boston area, and when he was 18, he was outside a bar, and he was trying to break up a fight, and someone took a knife right in the back of his neck, and his spinal cord was completely severed. So Matthew is paralyzed now from the neck down. So you see a wire line and a box going into his brain. There's that small implant into his brain, and then an algorithm that decodes the neural activity and maps it into a position space. So here's Matthew checking his email.
It says, I will watch you.
So through thought, he's controlling the cursor and clicking on icons. Here he's controlling the television.
I'm going to channel down. Yes, channel down. I'm going to channel up. Yes, channel up.
And of course, any external device can be controlled, even a robotic hand.
Now close it.
Now close. Open. Close. Not bad.
So John Donahue, the principal investigator of this work, believes that if funding continues, that such a surgical intervention can be made safe, it can be done on an outpatient basis. That is to say, you go in Sunday morning, you leave the hospital Sunday evening, and you have a chip in your brain. The chip, again, is a small fraction of your thumbnail. There's a lot of real estate up here. So that small fraction of your thumbnail, which you saw there, you can do a very good degree of freedom control. Imagine the future. Moving on, augmented perception. We are overwhelmed in society by information. It's hard, given our biological sensing framework, to deal with all the information. Patty Mays at MIT has developed what she calls Sixth Sense, along with her student, Herr. This is a non-invasive device using standard components. You see a camera, projector, standard components that sum up to about $300. And here's what it can do. So here, the individual is shopping, picks up an item, and what's projected on the item is how environmentally friendly the product is. That product was environmentally friendly. He picks up another product. This gets a green light. It's environmentally friendly. He hits the green light button, and it tells him why it's environmentally friendly. He's satisfied, and then decides to purchase the device. Then he goes into a bookstore, picks up a book, and he wants to know, what do the critics think about this book? So here's a rating, gets 3 out of 5 stars, not that good. Picks up another book. Again, gets critics' ratings projected from the Sixth Sense. 4 out of 5 stars and better. Now he's more interested, he opens the book. Additional information is projected on the page about the author. Goes in, he looks at images in the book, and then a little icon pops up for audio. He presses that icon. We could have audio here.
About the empires of the future being the empires of the mind. Can you talk?
That I will execute the office of President of the United States faithfully. I'll execute the office faithfully.
And you meet someone, you want to know too much about them? this is a nice person, you should know this person, or this is not a nice person. This is a person you can fall in love with. Get their business with. Now, this is the part that I like. So going to the airport, I travel a lot, and I just love this. Projected on the ticket is the delay of the plane and what gate, the gate change. And then what time is it? The person just gestures a watch, and there's the watch. So 6 cents. Moving on to machine empathy. There's an exciting new area of robotics called social robotics. And what it's about is building machines that are more like us, that are more organic. As shown here, this is Professor Cynthia Brazil and her robot Kismet. So we're thinking about a future in which we don't have crude relationships, simplistic relationships with our computational tools like the computer. A future in which we don't have this stupid screen and the keyboard. That when we interact with our computational tools, with our robotic tools, it's like you and me interacting, a seamless human-like social interaction. To get there, we need to do important research into mapping visual information, body postural information, into affected cognitive mental states. So brain concentrating, disagreeing, so on and so forth. The various social, emotional states of humans. So Professor Picard at MIT has done just this. Using machine learning strategies, she's able to take visual information from a person's face and the various gesturing, nonverbal gestures, and map that into social emotional states. And her computer algorithms are able to outperform or score the top 6% of people. Very, very good. And now she's applying this to help persons with autism. So here you see a cat, and there's a camera mounted on the cat, and on the other side there's an earpiece. So as the autistic person is communicating with another human being, that person that they're communicating with is being filmed, and then that visual information is fed into a computer, a machine learning classifying algorithm that maps those kinematics to social emotional states. And then the person with the earpiece is told of the appropriate social response to the situation. So for example, the autistic person can be communicating to another person, and the autistic person can be talking on and on and on and on. The person they're communicating with may become bored. Then the earpiece would tell the person, you need to change the topic of conversation, you need to stop speaking, perhaps let the other person talk, because they're losing interest. This is a great tool for professors, by the way. Fantastic tool. So she's using this in great effect, and here's a video of how it works.
This is a camera that captures your face and starts analyzing it in real time. And the way it does that is it first locates 22 feature points on your face, and then tracks how these points move over time to recognize a bunch of facial expressions and head gestures, like a head nod, a head shake, a smile, a lip pucker, an eyebrow raise. And then it starts looking at how these head gestures and facial expressions combine with time to communicate a certain affective or cognitive state, like whether the person is interested, confused, thinking, agreeing, disagreeing, and so on.
How many people have been frustrated by technology in the last week, even the last day? I'm always frustrated by technology. Sometimes my car doesn't work the way I want it to work. Often my computer doesn't work the way I want it to work. And the problem is our cars and computers and mobile phones and so on and so forth, they don't know our emotional state. In the future, our machines or devices will know very well our emotional state. Our computers will know that we're angry at them and will respond appropriately. Imagine that future. So here's one of Professor Brazil's social robots interacting with a human.
One of my favorite things to do is to learn.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been learning to grow and catch my ball. It's really hard, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, good.
It's helping me learn how to move my arms and my hands better. I already know how to pick up and hold my toys. to aim my throws or know where to put my hands when a ball is thrown to me.
Yeah, it can be difficult.
Okay, here's a mobile phone, a regular mobile phone attached to a platform. And this platform outputs the gestures of the person that's holding the mobile phone. So the nonverbal cues. In Brazil, Professor Brazil has found that by expressing these nonverbal cues, not just audio, not just the voice of the person, but also how their head bobs and what they're doing with their arms, the quality of the communication is greatly enhanced. So the human way of communicating, we need to capture in our machines. Okay, new bodies. My group at MIT develops bionic prostheses. This is a US soldier using one of our prostheses. Inside the prosthesis is microprocessors and sensors. And what's being varied is the resistance of the knee or knee dampening. It allows this individual to have a fairly high quality of life. So you see interacting with his daughter. Here's Rudy Garcia. As you can see, he's missing 2 legs above the knee. Rudy is an extraordinary person who's actually training for the Ironman in Hawaii using these 2 bionic knees. Another important area of new bodies, this area of bionics, is building exoskeletal structures. Bionic structures that wrap around limbs that are either impaired or not impaired. So that's an important area of my group's research at MIT. This individual suffered a stroke, and he has what's called drop-foot pathology, where, as you can see in his left side, he's hitting the ground with his forefoot instead of his heel. What we did is we built a robot that wraps around his impairment and pushes on his limb and restores both symmetry between left and right sides of his body and his capacity to walk at high speeds. More ambitiously, we're building robots that span the entire human leg. The crutch is centuries old. Crutches are, in my opinion, are not a very good technology. They hurt the arms, the wrists, the hand, they abrade the underarms. Imagine a compliant, intelligently controlled exoskeletal structure that behaves like the human limb. Now the hands are free to do things such as touch the elevator button. We're also thinking about exoskeletal structures that augment normal human locomotion. So this person does not have a disability. What we're trying to do is have a novel mobility platform where a person can run without breathing very hard. So we envision a future where people will, in urban and natural environments, use these exoskeletal structures. Perhaps in urban environments, they'll run to work at natural speeds and energies. And they'll get to the office complex and they'll take their robotic mobility device off like they're taking a coat off. So I'm going to finish up here with comment on the network. So the current network, if you expand it to its greatest limit, a person can be anywhere on the planet and receive the world's information, and the person can give the world its information. But what's coming in the future is a network that's a human-robot interaction, where a person can be anywhere on the planet and give the world his or her movement work and receive the work of the world. So here's a video of a remote teleoperation from a company called Sarcos in the United States. Clearly, when the human moves, it's being sensed, and then the robot's being controlled. Obviously, the human and robot need not be in the same room. They can be thousands of meters apart. So this idea of telepresence, that in the future we'll have many robots in our homes, and we'll be able to jack into those robots from remote locations and do work, is a very, very exciting. Giving the network arms and legs. So here's an image. What I would predict in the future is that common household items, such as a fork, will have embedded systems, electronics and computations. And those forks and common items will be able to communicate with robots within the home. So the robot will say, I want a fork, and the fork will send out, I'm a fork, I'm at this XYZ location, I'm made of this material. These are human-like fingerprints. This is how to grab me. So with such a world, we can leapfrog over the vision manipulation problem. And we can have stories such as, you're in Paris, you're going to the airport, you take your mobile platform, you pick your favorite chef, you pick your favorite dish from that chef, and So future technologies will augment the power of the mind, enhance sensory experience, promote learning, and give us superhuman strength. So through fundamental changes in regenerative medicine, bionics, these critical fields of the 21st century, we will establish technological sophistication that will end disability and will put forth an enhanced human experience. The only limit to how far we can extend human capability are those imposed by laws of physics and the boundaries of our collective imaginations. You know, I'm often asked, often by reporters, if I was granted a fairy's wish, would I wish my biological legs back? Absolutely not. My bionic limbs are part of my body, they're part of my identity, part of my creation. Besides, I can upgrade. Every month or so, I get mechanical and software upgrades to my bionic limbs. In time, my bionic limbs improve in functionality, where the biological part of my body degrades due to age-related degeneration. So I predict when I'm 80 years old, I'll walk with less energy than a person with biological legs, and my balance will be superior even to an 18-year-old. Anyone like to see my bionic limbs? Happy to show you. Let me grab a chair here. So what I have here is the bionic limb has 5 microprocessors and 12 sensors. One critical sensor is from Freescale. So on board we have accelerometer chips from Freescale. Put your hands together for Freescale. So currently there's no neural implants. That is to say, I rely on only artificial intelligence. But very soon I'll have neural implants inside my body, and I'll be able to think and fire my muscles, and that will send motor information to the robot, and then the motors will move the robot as I wish under volitional control. In about 15 years or so, we'll be able to take sensory information from the robot and map those into stimulations into my nerves that have been amputated. So I'll not only be able to walk across sand, but I'll be able to feel the sand against my artificial structure. So when I walk, what we've done is we've modeled my missing body part. We put forth mathematical descriptions of my muscles and tendons and spinal reflexes, and that forms the basis of the control of the device. So as I walk, even though it's made of titanium and silicone and carbon, it moves as if it's made of flesh and bone. So the Freescale chip is part of the inertial measurement unit package. And what that does is it tells us how fast the person's moving and what the terrain is. So what we do is when my foot's flat on the ground, we start integrating forward and we compute the XYZ trajectory of my bionic ankle joint. Then we do pattern recognition to figure out what the terrain is. Is the terrain flat? Is the person walking up a hill, walking down the steps? And then the system adapts its power and impedance and whatnot positions appropriate for that terrain. Also, when I go faster and faster, I get more and more energy, and the Freescale chip is critical to that functionality as well. So I'll put a period there. I'd like to end by saying thank you so much to Freescale. Your fantastic technologies allow fantastic mobility for so many people around